Welcome back to Overkill Reviews. Well, unless Tool get around to releasing a record this year, this week I'm reviewing the most anticipated metal album of 2017, and that's Mastodon's Emperor of Sand, released today worldwide on Warner Brothers Records. Mastodon are one of the most talked about bands in metal and rock today. Four guys, Troy, Braun, Bill, and Brent, put together a band and forge a fairly unique sound consisting of a little bit of sludge, a little bit of hardcore, and a little bit of prog. Their first two albums, Remission and Leviathan, are released on Relapse Records and make an instant impact in the metal and rock community. Then they of course get signed to Warner for the album Blood Mountain, but it was 2009's Crack the Sky that really blew the doors open of progressive metal, and since then Mastodon has released The Hunter and Once More Round the Sun. But Mastodon's history has not been without controversy. Over the last couple of records, the band has produced a much less proggy and much more accessible sound. So let's see where they go on Emperor of the Sand. But before I dig into the review, in true Mastodon fashion, I was out in the elements on the weekend, and yes, I nearly chopped my thumb off with an axe. But I digress. Let's get to the review. The opening track on Emperor of Sand is Sultan's Curse, and after a few seconds of what sounds like some reverberating chimes or cymbals or perhaps even a triangle, we get this trudging, loping 6/8 riff. Mastodon here starting us on very solid footing with a real reliable riff that could be right off Leviathan or Blood Mountain, and of course main man Troy Sanders barking forth. And then we get to the chorus and it takes a slightly more Crack the Sky turn. This section of the tune, of course, is carried by guitarist Brent Hines, and it's clear that on Emperor of Sand that Mastodon is continuing that multi-vocal approach that they've been doing more and more of over the course of their last few records. Another tradition that Mastodon continues on Emperor of Sand is it's a concept album, and this album tells the story of a desert wanderer who's been handed a death sentence, and this, it turns out, is a metaphor for a lot of personal and tragic loss that the band members have experienced in recent years. And as the song continues, we get deeper into that more ethereal and dreamy Mastodon territory. Here we have almost moaning in a very kind of yearning tone. Oceans of sand and rust give way and yield my wake. So again, Mastodon dealing in very metaphorical terms for this journey through the desert. And as we reach near the end of Sultan's Curse, and a song that's been fairly dominated by the vocal and the vocal melody, we get some nice dual harmony guitar. So what I'm hearing so far on Emperor of Sand is really a combination of sounds that we've heard from Mastodon on more recent records and of course from their deeper catalog. But by and large, no big surprises yet. Let's go to the next one. Track 2 on Emperor of Sand is called Show Yourself, and it's the lead video track from the album. What can I say? Put on your dancing shoes.
Show yourself, show yourself. I wanna see everything you're made of. Tear it down.
Now, Show Yourself is really continuing a tradition that we've seen from Mastodon on their last 3 records, starting with songs like Oblivion, but then even more so with Curl of the Burl and High Road, where we get this one singular track on the Mastodon record that really is much more rock radio friendly. It's much more akin to, say, a Queens of the Stone Age or a Foo Fighters rather than a Rush. And as we move into the chorus, voice ratchets up a register with a vocal melody that's guaranteed to stick in your head.
You're not as safe as far as I can tell, and I can tell. Only you can save yourself. Yeah.
What's notable here is that as Braun is delivering these very catchy vocal melodies, the drums are simultaneously simplifying. And this is really at the core of what has polarized the Mastodon fan base. But much like Sultan's Curse, a song earlier, on Show Yourself, as we near the end of the song, we again get some big anthemic dual guitar work from Bill and Brent. So, Show Yourself will undoubtedly cause a lot of debate among the Mastodon masses, but one thing's for sure is that the video for the song is fucking hilarious and shows that Mastodon can maintain a sense of humor even when they're dealing with some pretty heavy topics. Next song. Track 5 on Emperor of Sand is called Roots Remain, and for those of you, like me, who crave a little bit more of that crack the sky factor in your Mastodon, listen to this intro. For me, this intro really harkens back to songs like The Czar and Last Baron, when really Mastodon were taking those bold steps into much more Pink Floyd-esque soundscape territory. But never fear, you old schoolers, they hit you next with a little bit of relapse sound.
And the sky opened up and it swallowed us all. All that's left is time and healing underground.
That part for me really feels like something that could have been on the cutting room floor for Remission or Leviathan, but as the song progresses, the skies open and re-enter Mr. Daler. Roots Remain clocks in at 6.5 minutes, and by the midpoint of the song, I'm really beginning to feel that this is Mastodon at its best. Ethereal, sludgy, and melodic all at once. And then we get a robot. I almost feel this is Brent Hines in a robot suit, just taking the piss out of the whole thing as he likes to do. In any case, what is great here is that it's Mastodon exhibiting all the peaks and valleys in their songwriting that they're so capable of. And it's really the aspect of Mastodon's music that I've been missing on the last couple of records. And then Roots Remain ends on some piano work. So, in my opinion, Roots Remain is the strongest song on the record so far, but we're only halfway. Let's see what the back half of Emperor of Sand has to offer. The last track I want to dig into on Emperor of Sand is called Scorpion Breath. But before I get there, tracks like Word to the Wise, Ancient Kingdom, and Clandestiny. For me, I feel like I've heard them before. It's not really exhibiting Mastodon at their best. So as I get towards the end of the album, I'm not really sure what to expect. And then they hit you in the gut with this. I'm feeling some renewed energy here towards the end of the album that was lost in that third quarter. And then we get a familiar face to the Mastodon fold, Scott Kelly from Neurosis. This is powerful stuff when Scott Kelly is behind this band. It's really sludge metal at its best and at its purest. But about midway, the song shifts gears. I think it kind of works. Here we've got an interesting combination of some fairly poppy chord changes, some kind of ethereal guitar work, but with the bellowing of Scott Kelly over top. On paper, it shouldn't really work, but really, I think the band has successfully struck a really cool balance here. But by the song's end, we go right back to where it started. So there you have it, Emperor of Sand. It's got a little bit of everything that we've come to know from Mastodon on the album, but don't get me wrong, it is definitely a new Mastodon album for 2017. Let's go to the verdict. As I mentioned at the outset, Mastodon has become one of the most talked about bands in metal today. And really over the last couple of records, they've transitioned from being that band that everyone was rooting for to a band that gets accused of being hipster metal, that band that's popular among non-metalheads. This is a band that's become less riff-driven over the years and much more driven by the vocal line, by the chord changes, and by the choruses of their songs. For me, as a Mastodon fan that's been there since Leviathan, the positive elements of this album are that the band continues to broaden their vocal approach. They are really unparalleled in their ability to incorporate 3, sometimes 4 different vocalists into a single song, and no one else does it quite like Mastodon. Another positive element of this album for me is, although most of the songs are more straightforward, there's a lot of really creative layering going on in the production on this album that does harken back to Crack the Sky. We've got tambourines, we've got glockenspiels, we've got all of these different percussive elements in addition to keyboard and guitar layers that really makes for a rich metal experience. And I do think this album represents a fairly successful marriage between their prog sound of, say, Crack the Sky with their more recent hard rock songwriting approach. But after listening to Emperor of Sand, I'm left with the feeling that I've heard most of these songs before. Songs like Sultan's Curse, Roots Remain, and Scorpion Breath were real standout tracks to me, but the rest of the album felt meandering, starting to feel like maybe Mastodon is resting on their laurels and that they need to find a new path forward in their songwriting. The real challenge here for Mastodon, of course, is that they have a big legacy to live up to. Leviathan, Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky are 3 of the most important modern metal records, and that's a hard act to follow. So, in the end, Emperor of Sand, a good Mastodon record, but not an excellent Mastodon record 3.5 skulls out of 5 on Overkill Reviews.